Greetings, friends! Thank you for watching Retro Unscripted. My name is Peter, and this is episode 15. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to watch today, and to all subscribers and viewers of this channel. It was just announced that Nintendo is going to be cutting off its Wi-Fi connection for the Wii and the DS platforms, which means that online connectivity and functionality for more than 400 different titles across the two platforms will cease to exist in just a couple of months' time. This is rather distressing to me as a player because the games won't be the same. Granted, we take things like online leaderboards and additional content that you can download, like extra puzzles for Professor Layton, or extra puzzles for 3D Picross, or things like that. We take those things for granted because you don't think they're going to go away. But inevitably they do. And what you're left with is an experience that just isn't the same. Playing a pinball game, for example, that's had online leaderboards, where you've used those scores as kind of a benchmark to compare your skill against, and to ratchet up your effort to be able to beat. With those online leaderboards being gone, part of the allure of the game tends to vanish. A game like Geometry Wars Galaxies, for example, which is a very score-dependent game, once the online leaderboards come down for those two games in May, there really isn't a lot of reason to go back. The high scores no longer exist except for your own, so you're really just competing against yourself in what is really the epitome of a solo player experience, when it's supposed to be more competitive. Playing a game like pinball, for example, when you're playing a pinball machine, there are certain objectives that you go for. You go for whatever score is necessary for a free game or an extra ball. That's the first objective. And then the second objective is to try and get your name up on the leaderboard on the top 3 or 4 spots. So you're always driving yourself, you're striving for better results. Online leaderboards open that up tremendously because not only are you competing against yourself and your friends, but you're competing against thousands and thousands and thousands of other people around the world. And it's all on a list right in front of you. So online leaderboards will be gone. There will be certain downloadable content that will be gone. And the thing that distresses me the most is, really for the first time in a significant form, we're going to start to see games being less than they were when they first came out. Check out Gradius 3, which is behind me, for example. When I bought this game at launch in 1991 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, I played it exactly like this. Everything was as promised. The solo player mode, the multiplayer mode, the graphics, the sound. These are the things that were promised and delivered. And over the course of the last 23 years, nothing has changed. The game plays exactly the same as it did back in 1991 and beyond. Now, turn that around to a game like Mario Kart DS, or Pokemon Black, or Animal Crossing. Games that have explicitly promised online functionality, and that functionality now no longer exists. Online leaderboards no longer exist. Certain events within the game no longer exist. These tend to dent or damage the value of these games over time, and more, they tend to dent the value of the consoles that they're played on over time. And that's something that's unusual. A system like a Nintendo Entertainment System, a Super Nintendo Entertainment System, a Genesis, an original PlayStation, these will be able to hold value over time because the experience doesn't change. It's just the players that play them will be able to relive those experiences exactly as they were back in the time of release. Now if you look at games for the Wii and the DS, and eventually for games on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, you're going to see a degradation of that value. Certain features and functionalities will no longer work. Granted, we've seen this in individual games on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in the past. Most notably are servers that EA would put up for their sports games. So older games like in the Tiger Woods series, and the Madden series, and the NCAA series are no longer able to be played online, and the online servers being down means that that part of the functionality no longer exists. So the games are a little bit less than they were when they were first played whenever they were released. So this is something that's new and something that's relatively uncomfortable, at least for me. In my eyes, it damages the value of these games and systems over time, so that in 20 years, I don't know that there's really going to be a lot of reason for me to go back and play an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3 game, because the games won't be what they were. Whereas a game like Gradius 3, or a game like ActRaiser, or Final Fantasy 2, or Super Mario Brothers, those games are timeless. No matter how old they are, they still play exactly the same way. Games like Madden 13, games like Pokemon Black, games like Mario Kart DS, games like Sin and Punishment. These are games that have had some sort of functionality stripped away. Granted, you will be able to play these games, they're still very playable, but there are certain pieces of the experience that will be forever gone. And that's distressing. The second thing about, or the second issue when it comes to cutting off online servers inevitably leads to how long are the storefronts going to be posted to be able to access content that you've bought? It's going to be a finite timeline. These things won't be up for years and years and years. And there's going to be a question sometime in the not too distant future, I fear, where games that you bought for your Wii that you'd like to be able to download again someday, but you don't have the extra space to do so, may be forever lost once Nintendo takes the Wii Shop down. Once Microsoft takes the Xbox Live Marketplace down for the Xbox 360. Once Sony takes down the PlayStation Store for the PlayStation 3. If you have games that you didn't have storage space to keep, and you don't download those before the stores go away, that is, in effect, wasted money. Games that you will never be able to access again. And that's very distressing. For me personally, one of the things that I want to do this year is I want to add a Wii to my retro library. Not only does, and granted it has to be an older Wii, not one of the newer ones, because the older Wii has the GameCube backwards compatibility, and it also has online capabilities, so I can buy virtual console games from the Wii Shop for systems that I probably won't be able to get my hands on. Games like Lords of Thunder, games like Rondo of Blood, games that are too expensive to really get otherwise, but I'd still like to be able to go back and play. Now, I feel like I'm kind of up against the clock when it comes to getting a Wii and adding it to my collection, because there's only going to be so long that the store is going to be up. How long am I going to have before the store no longer works? And more importantly, how many games can I really buy and be able to hold on to before the store goes down and I'm not able to have access to those games any longer? So now I have to ask myself, after being so gung-ho about getting a Wii to begin with, after all, I bought Target Terror for it not just a couple of weeks ago. But now reality's starting to set in a little bit. I know the store is going to be going away. Granted, it's not going away in May like the Wi-Fi connection is, but you know it's a matter of time, and it may be sooner rather than later. So how long do I really have? What are the limitations? I'm now up against a clock. I have pressure for the first time, whereas waiting 10 years to buy another NES or 15 years to buy another Sega Genesis, there is no pressure there because the experience is going to be the same no matter when you buy the systems. So it's a curious line of thinking that I now have to adopt for this past console generation moving forward when it comes time to whether these are going to wind up having spots in my retro library or not. And it's something that's going to be looked at and discussed for many years after the systems are discontinued. So it's unfortunate. It's something that is going to involve a little bit of adjustment for old-timers like myself that aren't used to things just going away. I've always been able to, if I've had the money, go out and buy whatever game or console that I wanted to relive or wanted to play again. And now there are very realistic possibilities and scenarios where I won't be able to do that for the Wii, for the PlayStation 3, and for the Xbox 360, and for systems going forward. So that younger generations than myself that will consider those systems as retro won't have the same experiences as I've had with the Nintendo, with the Super Nintendo, and with the Genesis. And to me, that's a shame. Anyway, I welcome your thoughts on this topic. Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's just technology moving forward? Feel free to leave some comments below, and maybe I'll address them in a future episode, or even a mailbag episode if I get enough reaction. Until the next time, friends, I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Retro Unscripted. Until then, take care.